Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning into Aries TV 33. Now, tonight I decided to record my video because in the dark, because I came outside and it was rainy most of the day, which is very rare in Southern California, trust me. It was rainy most of the day. It just seemed really like beautiful in a different way, and I like to go outside and film when it's beautiful, but it's a different kind of beautiful. I feel like it's the beginning of fall season and I'm really excited, and I usually, I'm a weirdo, so I usually jump up out of like my naps and just do something. Like that's when things like come to me. By the way, just check that out. I don't know if you can see it in the sky. It's kind of beautiful, but either way, I usually just jump up out of my naps and do something. And when I got out of my nap today, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a video about Pluto today. So Pluto, okay, Pluto is the generational planet. This planet is really dope. It just recently in the 1930s got discovered, and people took it seriously as a planet. Although they do call it a dwarf planet, it's our farthest planet out. And it takes 248 years to go around the full zodiac. I believe it spends, it spends about 12 to 31 years in each sign, depending on. Now, why Pluto is so dope is because it's a generational planet. It's a planet that speaks to a full freaking generation. And, it's also known as the god of the underworld, or in Greek mythology it's known as Hades, which we all know Hades was like rawr. And like when I talk on these videos and I say like in mythology what they represent, that's because of what they did. Now what Pluto does generationally is shatters a belief. So that's why I would see why they would consider it as Hades and interpret Pluto to be Hades, because it just drastically comes in and changes shit for a whole group. So it might seem like a massive takeover for somebody. Yeah, an entire generation will share the sign, whatever sign Pluto's in. So that's why like it tends to be like the hippie movement, the, you know, just well, that's the most obvious to us, is like the hippie movement. Then we have this new age like technology thing. So there's a bunch of different things that you can obviously see a change from generation to generation, you know. Yeah, let me keep on going. Okay, Pluto brings changes whether you like it or not. It burns away the falsehoods, so that the truth can rise and like set us free. So if something is not true to us, like our parents, they came from like a gangbang era, like a war era, you know, it's like we can't identify with that, because why are you guys fighting and killing each other for? Like, we're trying to create something different. And the funny thing is that some of us actually still had those characteristics, and then some of us didn't, or some of us grew up in those characteristics and that was a false belief to us, and we turned and went to like a healing or to like a we care about each other type of point of view. So it's very interesting with that Pluto thing. Okay, it's considered the dwarf planet from the Kuiper belt, and it's the largest dwarf planet and the 10th most massive planet from the sun. Let me check out my notes. It's subtle, but its rays like hit us hard. Like, so it's far away, and it's not like as impactful as Saturn personally, but it is impactful just massively as a whole. Like, it's a full entire generation that is affected by Pluto. Okay, so Pluto basically says, it asks us to transcend all things that we know and give birth to something new. Pluto's also the destroyer. They also call Pluto the destroyer. It forces the masses, it focuses on the masses and what we can do as a collective. So yeah, the most obvious thing I can just say about Pluto is that you can just see a change from generation to generation, and you can see a change like obviously, and it's one of those kind of things where wherever it's housed at, like it will, like we will make the change, or change will be thrusted up on us. That's how Pluto works. Like it's gonna change generation to generation, but it's either depending on what sign, like what sign our generation Pluto is in, depends on if we're gonna be the catalyst to the change, or if, you know, like maybe the government or this or that is gonna be the catalyst to the change. So that's totally, completely up to us as a generation, depending on what sign Pluto is in our generation. So, yeah, this is an awesome video, and we're only going to experience one of those generations one time, because unless they come up with something extremely great, then we're not going to be alive for 243 years. So we're all going to have our prime generations that we experience and our prime evolutions and change that we experience. So the planet of like destroyer, but I see it as like, you know, like the trendsetter planet, you know. It's just like it kind of does its own thing. But I wanted to bring you that. Woke up out of my sleep, out of a little nap, and just said, you know what, it's time to talk about Pluto, because I feel like my generation, I feel like we grew up thinking that it was cool to be hip-hop, but the thing is, hip-hop is a music, but hip-hop has turned into a culture, but hip-hop has turned into a false culture of like killing and stealing and robbing and all this stuff. And I feel like we got caught up in that, because that's initially like where our parents came from, and it was so trendy and so cool with the Pacs and the this and the that. But even Pac, he wasn't even really that. Like he was a poet. Like he was somebody who was great. He was somebody that could have changed the world, but it was that false belief, I feel like, that we all believed and that we all fell into, that kind of like threw us off. But I feel like now in my generation, like we're waking up. That was not our identification, that was our parents' identification, and we're waking up and we're seeing like, hey, you know what, we're bigger than this. We can actually change the world. We're going to change the world, and we are changing the world. And our children, don't even let me start on our children. Our children are gonna like flip it and reverse it. Like that's what they're gonna do. But seriously, I just wanted to make a video on Pluto. Once again, just hit some pinpoints. 243 days to go around the whole zodiac. Spends about 12 to 31 years in each sign. It's a generational planet. It's the planet of power. Forces you to change as a collective. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. Sorry that my energy is kind of weird. I do have cat ears on, which is really weird and really odd, but I do. So... and I have a pink little bustier top, because I felt like just because it's dark doesn't mean I can't be bright. Hello. So, Marley Nadine, Aries TV 33, thanks for tuning in. Love you guys, and that was Pluto.